Hi, welcome to Schulte Sweeties YouTube channel. My name is Stephanie and I'm a mom of 3 girls ages 12, 8, and 6. Today is a collaboration with 2 homeschool moms. So it's actually Ashley from Gathered and Grounded and Nikki from Blessed Homeschool Mess. And they have both come together and created their own channel, like doing a podcast type thing. And so they are both co-hosting this collaboration with other moms, sharing about how homeschooling through hard times. So I have shared this a little bit here and there in other videos, but thought, I can always share kind of what we've gone through and how we have gotten through that. So it's kind of like a story time, but we have been now homeschooling for 7.5 years. My oldest, who is 12, actually did go to public school kindergarten, but she struggled. She actually struggled in preschool at a Christian preschool, and then in kindergarten, she struggled with just leaving me. But during those times, I was pregnant with her middle sister and then her youngest sister in those years. And so lots of change with me being pregnant and having new siblings and stuff. And she just really hated leaving me. And so that was what actually got me started to think about homeschooling, because I had no clue about homeschooling. I didn't have any desire to homeschool. But just the thought of her leaving, and then that spring break, we went to Gatlinburg as a family, and I was like, we were having so much fun. And I think this would be really kind of a fun thing to be able to be with her, have the flexibility to go on trips and, spend the time with her. And so that's when it got me thinking about homeschooling. Well, little did I know all the things that would be happening in especially the next 2 years or so. So that spring break, with her still in school, we made this decision to start homeschooling. I was very pregnant and about to have a baby that summer. So we started homeschooling just a few weeks before I had the baby, just to kind of get started. And we had her youngest sister, and it was great. We loved it. And it was a little bit tricky with trying to figure out baby and things, but that was probably number one hard time, with figuring out how to homeschool with a newborn. So we have done that. Then when my baby was just a few months old, I think it was October of that year, I fell and broke my ankle very severely. I had to have hospital stays and surgeries, and it was an ordeal. So that was hard time number 2, big hard time. Then my dad was helping with me with a homeschooling. My husband was kind of working from home, but he had to focus on work. So my dad would come. He was so hands-on and would just take my 2 oldest ones to co-op and spend time with them, help me get little ones down for a nap, because I was kind of couch ridden at that point, maybe a little bit bedridden. And so he was just always helping and getting things, but he did not feel good. Well, I kind of observed him, and I told my mom, who was a registered nurse, we need to get him checked out. Something's not right. And that started the process of, and they thought he had gallbladder issues, and he went in for surgery and found out he actually had pancreatic cancer. So hard time number 3. Sorry if I cry a little bit. That was totally unexpected, and that was one of the biggest things that rocked our world. We were not expecting my dad to go into a normal routine surgery and come out with a diagnosis of cancer. But that was just within the first 6 months of us homeschooling. I had a baby, I broke my ankle, and my dad got diagnosed with cancer. So he started treatment that next year, in January, so still within our first year of homeschooling. he started like chemo treatments and things, but ultimately we knew with pancreatic cancer, there's not much that can be done. Treatments helped him, I think, prolonged his life a little bit. We did get 11 months with him, and those are months that we would never trade for the world, because we got to make those memories with him. But on November 8th of 2008, so we had just completed our first school year and into our second homeschool year, my dad did pass away. And then that started it kind of had started our grief process even before he passed away, but that really kickstarted our grief process, especially with, I was grieving, my mom was grieving, and then my oldest, who was like 7 at the time, was so close to my dad, was also grieving. So I was grieving, helping my mom grieve, and then helping my daughter grieve. My other 2 kids were a little bit younger and didn't really have the processes to grieve. My husband was grieving in his own way as well. I have a brother who normally lives overseas, and so he was grieving too in a different way. So I was like grief compacted. It was like so much grief compounded together. So then I had to like work through how to get us in a good place with our grief in our second year of homeschooling. Then, so we're going through all the motions, trying to survive that full year of my dad passing away. And just like a year and a half after he passes away, we get hit with COVID, like in our whole world, you know? And so that just rocked our homeschool world as well, because it stopped our co-op that we loved for months, and just kind of like kept us at home. So it rocked our world once again. So at this point, I can't remember how many, we're like 3 years into homeschooling, I think. And we had already talked about previously, before my dad had passed, we talked about moving a few hours away, still in our state, maybe in another state, closer to my husband's family. And so we had talked about that, but with like my dad being sick and my mom like grieving, we had postponed that. But with COVID, it like kind of brought us back, like, okay, well, could we refocus and try to do this again? So that just months after like COVID kind of rocked our world, we decided to start looking very hard. We sold our house in that fall of 2020. In early 2021, we had been living with my mom, so that was a whole nother thing that we had to work through, living with my parent as a grown adult. And then in 2021, early 2021, we did find a house 3.5 to 4 hours away from where we were living. And we purchased a house, had to move in the middle of winter, all while still homeschooling. And then we were starting the struggle of trying to find new friends, find if we wanted to do a co-op again. Like when you move, it is sometimes so hard to feel like where can you fit in? And so that was really a struggle, and like finding a church family was a struggle. We were just, there was months that I was like, oh my goodness, like what are we doing? Like, what if I can't find a good group for my kids to become friends with? But like little did I know, like I came in contact with someone, and we have a great homeschool group. But that was a little nerve-wracking at the time. Then in the summer of that year of 2021, my mom decided to sell her house. She moved in with us over here 3.5 hours away. And then by that fall, she did find a house as well close by us. So we had all of that. And in the midst of that, we have also dealt with, of course, our own sicknesses, traveling, and busyness. We have dealt with, I've told you, grief, but also anxiety with myself, with my kids. We have dealt with hormones of preteens. So there has been so much compounded. But in the end, I cannot imagine not homeschooling through all of this. I said it so many times, especially that first year when it was like boom, boom, boom. So many things, so many hard things. But we had that flexibility of homeschooling. We could drop our book work and go pick up my dad if he had a good day, and like after I could drive again, go pick up my dad, and we would go to lunch or go over to his house and do our schoolwork there. He got to do like play games with them. And so I'm like, that flexibility was such a great key. But I will also say, like, I do not regret those memories being made. And so if you're going through like some of those super hard times with sickness and maybe a possible death or a traumatic event, take that time to be flexible, take that time to grieve. We did for grief, my oldest went to a grief counselor for kids. I went to a grief counselor. I went to Grief Share and helped out with Grief Share. We read books. We did all sorts of things to help us through that grief. We are still working through our grief. I will not say, like, even almost 5 years later, our grief is not there. Like, even my oldest, 12 now, came up to me the other day. She said, I was just really missing my Papa, my dad. I don't know why. It just hit me, and I'm like, it hits ya. But I'm so glad that like she can come to me and talk to me about that in the middle of the day. She's not like stuffing that inside throughout her day at school and dealing with her grief at school with someone else. I'm glad that she can deal with it with me. We can deal with it as a family. And even my younger two, who are now 6 and 8, are grieving in their own ways 5 years later of the death of my dad. So like we are working through that even now. But I am so glad that we have the flexibility. We had the flexibility to make memories. We had the flexibility to drop things and make trips that were so many memories made on those trips with my dad before he passed away. I love that we can also, if there is like a day, like when I mentioned my daughter like struggling with her grief that day, we can adjust our schedule to make it a lighter schedule. Maybe we need to cuddle on the couch, watch something educational, or spend a day going to a museum, knowing that would be something that my dad would have loved to do, and kind of like smiling because of that. I love that we have the flexibility to do that with our schedule. And like, I used to like be so worried, like, oh no, we're gonna miss out on that curriculum. We're missing a curriculum day, but like, it's okay. It will be made up. Your children will not miss things. You can work on another day when things are better. So, and even now, like I mentioned, I have a preteen with hormones and stuff, and she like will have days that like are harder on her, like emotionally, and like I know I'm like, okay, like I can't push her too much right now. She is going through a lot emotionally, and she will get done what she can, and if not, it'll be done tomorrow, because usually her mood is a different mood by the next day. So I love that we can be flexible even with the workload. And I love to like I mentioned, that we can talk openly. My children, I feel like because we homeschool, we can talk openly more. Like we have our morning time together, but we also have every day together. They come to me, well, I mean, sometimes they come to me at night, but they can come to me, and I feel like they know that I'm gonna be here for them, and we don't have like, I don't feel like we have a strained relationship, and that we have just that close relationship, and that I really believe homeschooling has really helped build strong foundation for that. Great tip is knowing like I might need time away, time to myself, but also knowing I need a community. So I guess that's 2 tips. So I need time away. Maybe I need to go take a bath by myself, go relax, let the stress go away for a little bit. Maybe I need like to go do some retail therapy, or take, I don't know, 24 hours even sometimes to just refresh myself. If I am feeling really like I've had a lot of struggles, maybe I need to escape into a book myself or something. So like, I know that there are times when I need to like step away because maybe I am double grief or triple grief with my mom or my daughter and myself. Maybe there's lots of emotions in the house. So like sometimes I just need to step away. My kids might need to step away too. but also knowing that I have a community, like my church family back at our old town was like family. And so I know like they are always there and ready to pray for us. They helped us so much. They gave food and comforted us a ton when my dad passed away and even before he passed. So like, I know I have them as a community. I know I have my mom as a community, my brother, my husband. But then also, like I mentioned, we have found a church family here at our new town, and I have close friendships with my close friends here that I can count on. I know that they would drop things to help us if we really needed something, if we had sickness or something, that they would drop by bringing us something. And then also like I have, this sounds so crazy sometimes, like I cannot believe that this is like has happened, but I've developed close friendships with other YouTube moms, and like I have a group of ladies that I know are praying. Like if I ask them, like, we have a struggle right now, we have sickness, or we are going through this, I have some anxiety about something, and so they are there praying too. So I just love the sense of community that you can get from people that you would least expect. So I think that is such a great tool to use when you are going through those hard times. So I would love to hear more of your story, more of how you get through those hard times, especially while homeschooling. You can't really escape those hard times, even when you're homeschooling. And sometimes it is really hard when you're in the thick of it. So let me know some of the things that you've gone through and how you've been working through those. Thanks for joining me today. Don't forget to check out the playlist down below. Thank you, Ashley and Nikki, for hosting. Have a great day.